Molt bé. Bon dia a tothom. Moltes gràcies per la vostra presència, la vostra asistencia. Voy a hacer el cambio de idioma porque me están indicando desde la organización del Congreso que en estos momentos tenemos más de 1.650 personas registradas. Es una cifra récord. Nunca en ediciones anteriores se había llegado a estos niveles. Al finalizar el Congreso, de aquí, o sea, mañana sabremos exactamente la suma, ¿no?, de los atendientes o de los que están siguiendo el Congreso desde el punto de vista digital. Es una lástima que la COVID nos obligue a que la presencialidad sea tan reducida, pero en fin, esperemos que esto con el tiempo lo vamos a cambiar. Voy a dar también una información de tipo logístico, también que me pasan desde organización y especialmente dirigida a las personas que nos están siguiendo por streaming. Es simplemente recordaros que podéis visitar los espacios expositores de la plataforma donde podéis encontrar información de interés, vídeos y datos de contacto de los patrocinadores. Yo creo que vale la pena, es una plataforma muy bien diseñada y que intenta emular de la manera más fidedigna posible una cierta presencialidad. También recordaros que podéis entrar en el espacio de networking en la misma plataforma y que podéis chatear con los invitados que han dado autorización a que su nombre aparezca en la lista. Recordad también que podéis seguir las sesiones en pantalla, simplemente tenéis que abrir dos pestañas de vuestro navegador, pero podéis tener la parte de networking y la parte de sesiones. Muy bien, y hechas estas introducciones o estos avisos de carácter logístico, vamos a entrar ya en el contenido del Congreso. Sabemos que vamos a empezar con una Keynote speaker muy especial que me gustaría presentar y me gustaría, empezando, hacer una referencia a estos volcanes de la Garrocha, a estos volcanes de Olot, porque la Keynote speaker que nos visita es originaria de aquí. Es una persona que ha trabajado en las empresas de Fortune 500 desde que llegó a Estados Unidos, más o menos con unos 20 y poco años. Llegó a Estados Unidos en el momento que estas empresas empezaban a tener la necesidad de la globalización, y ella, gracias a su formación humanista, enseñó a estas empresas que la globalización implicaba una multiculturalidad, un multilingüismo, y a partir de aquí pues, empezó a desarrollar su carrera en este conjunto de empresas. Actualmente es vicepresidente corporativo en Procore, una empresa que se dedica a plataformas especiales para actividades de construcción. Es una empresa líder a nivel mundial. Y como podéis ver, pues, su trayectoria en estas empresas ha sido espectacular. También, fruto de su actividad en el mundo de la globalización, es autora de este libro que ha tenido muchas menciones, muchos premios, en donde se teoriza y se explica la globalización, qué tienen que hacer las empresas para ser globales. Está también muy contenta de haber podido hacer una patente. Ella, ya sabéis que no tiene un background tecnológico, pero ha hecho una patente en la que, utilizando Machine Learning, es capaz de que el software se pueda adaptar a estas condicionantes debido a la globalización de una manera absolutamente automática. Es una persona también muy comprometida, ¿no?, con la posición de la mujer en el mundo en general, en el mundo de la empresa, en la tecnología, en la sociedad, e incluso pues, tiene tiempo para crear una organización sin ánimo de lucro, Women in Localization, desde la que ayuda a hacer estas tareas de carácter más social. En definitiva, es una persona que ha sido reconocida en su trayectoria de una manera absolutamente clara. Podéis ver que ha sido reconocida como la mujer más influyente en el mundo de la tecnología, como una de las líderes empresariales también más importantes, y recientemente la revista World Leader la situó en el grupo de las 10 líderes más influyentes y más importantes a tener en cuenta. En definitiva, me gustaría dar la presentación a Ana Navarro Schlegel, que va a ser nuestra keynote speaker de hoy, y espero que la recibamos con un fuerte aplauso. Ok. El keynote speaker la vamos a hacer con una pequeña diálogo, preguntas que yo le voy a pasar a Ana. Ana las va a responder. Quisiera aprovechar también para deciros que tenéis la oportunidad de ir preparando preguntas, las podéis hacer al final de la sesión, tenéis los micros laterales y las preguntas las podéis dirigir directamente, os podéis dirigir, levantar y hacer las preguntas. Estoy seguro que Ana estará más que encantada de poder contestar estas preguntas. Y también hemos acordado que la sesión la vamos a hacer en inglés, un poco para facilitar la comunicación a Ana. Ya sabéis que lleva más de 30 años, muchísimos años en Estados Unidos. So, first of all, Anna, we are very, very happy that you are here. We thank you that you have traveled from the States, and really it's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Anna, so maybe you can start just telling us a little bit about your journey in Silicon Valley, maybe just few hints about your career over there.
Primer, disculpeu que no parli el català, perquè he après aquests termes de tecnologia en anglès. Sí. Vaig arribar als Estats Units amb 23 anys i se'm va canviar el cervell. Sí. So I came to the Silicon Valley, San Francisco, when I was 23, and I started my own little company back then already, which was a globalization company, because why not, with the age of 23. And I didn't get a single client the first year, but I learned a lot. I learned who was there, who was public sector, how you could get a company set up. And in my first year, I got a phone call from a company called Silicon Graphics, back then, that used to make these huge computers. And I got them as a client, and they wanted translation, so I studied Filologia at la Universitat Central. And I told them, you know, translations are not going to be enough. You're going to need your operating system if you want to take this to Germany or to take it to somewhere else. Oh, okay, so how do we change an operating system? I said, I don't know, I'm a philologist, but we can try. Right? So I started working with the engineering team. And so one company after the other, one day I got a phone call from Cisco, and they said, hey, you know, whatever you're doing with your small company, we need to do it inside of Cisco because Cisco is about to go global. And I said, what is Cisco? Oh, it's a telecommunications company. Why don't you come on a Friday? And I had an offer on Monday to bring my company inside of Cisco. So pretty much, you know, they bought me in with the whole team. And getting into Cisco, I was very, very young. I was 26, 27. I had no clue what they were talking about, but I had to learn. They put me through a lot of engineering courses there. And that's how I learned how to help these companies. They said it's a small company. They were already 30,000 employees at that time. And so how do you tell 30,000 employees to go global and to start changing was kind of very interesting at the age of 26, you know, and being Catalan and not having had much American experience. I remember back then already when they said, oh, you have to translate all this content. And I said, you cannot hire enough translators to go around the world for Cisco. I said, why don't we look at machines? And so we flew to London, I think this was 97 or 98 already, to talk to IBM. And they had this machine that was called TM2 that was already attempting to translate words without humans. And so I was one of the first testers. And I remember the CEO of Cisco, his name is John Chambers. So Chambers is una habitació, it's a room. And so I could not train this machine to say Juan Recámara. You know, I had to say, no, the CEO of Cisco is John Chambers. They kept saying, el presidente de Cisco es Juan Recámara. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that was my first interaction of working with machine learning already in the 90s. So I've been working with machine learning and linguistics since the 90s. And then from there, I think you had the list of companies that, then because Cisco was one of the first companies to go global, then people really wanted us. People wanted people from my team. And I went on to Xerox and VMware and VeriSign and NetApp, and right now I'm at Procore.
Okay. That was a very challenging, very interesting career, very interesting history.
I don't know.
Can you tell us a little bit, based on your experience, how leaders in these companies, in these large companies, get into the digital revolution? What does it take to do this step?
Yeah. So companies are people, right? And you have to, I'm only going to speak about the Silicon Valley, which is the Bay Area, where I've only lived there and only worked there. And there is also what we call the revolving door of vice presidents. És com si una porta rotatòria de vicepresidents i executius, no? That they're constantly changing. And so it depends on who sits at the top. They're going to be more IT-oriented or more product-oriented or more engineering-oriented. But typically, the digital revolution either starts within marketing, within product, or within the CTO or the CIO offices. And you have to imagine, I worked at Xerox where we were 130,000 employees, or I've worked at, VeriSign where we were 40,000 employees. So it kind of depends of who's on top. Typically, the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, is extremely worried about the digital revolution. CMOs in the United States have a lifetime of 2 years. So CMOs change every 2 to 3 years because the pressure is so heavy. So you will see a CMO jump from this company to this company to this company. And that's how it started. It was very much web teams. I don't know if you remember like webmaster, which is a word that we can't say anymore in the States now because master comes from slavery, right? So we had to change all these names. And then I think product managers caught the wind that if you understand the consumer, if you understand how many people are going to buy your Nestle Aquarelle, you can focus your energy this way or that way. And for that, you actually do need artificial intelligence. I remember visiting, for several companies, I have brought in AI. So for example, for NetApp, we started with IBM Watson to do the chatbots. And then we realized the power of this chatbot that we created an entire platform for the customer that would predict if your systems are going to go down, if your systems need to be renewed. We would fix things overnight. We would scan things overnight. And that's where I got my patent idea. I'm like, oh my God, we're fixing all these things overnight. Why can't I fix code overnight? And for 2 years, I worked on why do I need to tell developers to fix internationalization issues when I know exactly where they fall every single time. So we did a library of errors. We applied machine learning, and then we created this self-healing overnight scanning mechanism to fix internationalization. So yeah, AI is everywhere. Where I am right now at Procore, Procore is a leading construction engineering company that does the largest construction sites in the world. Everything is based on AI. We know safety codes, we know regulations around different governments. We sell in 120 countries. And so AI is going to predict quite a bit for them.
Okay. It's important that, or we would like as well, if you can convey us your views, because here we have a fabric of companies which are rather SMEs, but in comparison to the States. So the question here is, what would be your recommendations or your advice for small companies to undertake all this revolution, all this digital revolution? How is your view on that, and what would be the takeaways that you would give to these companies?
And I know that there are companies that are 5 people. I used to have a company with 5 people, right? And then 20 and then 100. And I know that a small company here, you know, when I say Procore is a small company, where I am right now, the vice president, we're 3,000 people. It's a very small company in the States, right? And I know here if you're 5 or 10 or 100 or 200, where do you start? Well, if you don't understand your customer, if you don't understand who you're building something for, you're going to get into trouble, right? And so I think you were talking about, even if you cannot afford a data scientist or you don't know how to predict or create modeling patterns, I would try to find an agency to come and support you on predicting where your customer is going. I remember giving Watson a problem. And the problem was, I think it was for Nike or for Adidas, I can't remember, but we were trying to push certain jogging pants for women, for very, very rich women, into a poor neighborhood. It was just for fun, okay? So we were trying to see, and Watson immediately told us, you're selling to the wrong customer. Beep, 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 beep. It went in the middle of Manhattan in New York. It's like, that's where the rich ladies are, and that's where you need to sell these super nice pants. If you cannot get ahead of where you need to be, I mean, it depends on the kind of company you want. I only work for guys that want to be number one. I work for the craziest leaders in the world, right? So the competition to them is everything. So I can't go and say, I don't know. I need to know exactly where the customer, the consumer is in 140 countries. If you're a small company and you're starting, talk to your customers, maybe lots of phone calls, do round tables, but you have to find out what is it that they want, what is it that they like, what is it that they don't like. Mm-hmm. And, you know, hopefully eventually one day you can apply some prediction modeling as you grow. I don't know, maybe through your website, you know, I don't know. I've mm-hmm. only solved really big, huge problems.
And what about going data-driven? How small companies, what would be your advice for them to become data-driven?
I would review every single week. You know, you can't just sit back and hope that, oh, look, one more customer, oh, one more client. To me, if I were to start a company, I would be super data-driven, super customer-focused. The obsession with the customer is everything. And the customer retention that you have there is everything. It's the Amazon model. That's why they became so paranoid or so incredible, right? They're like everything, you want to return anything, any time of the day they come, they give you, they make it so easy. If you're a small company, I think, and you're a few people, I can see, because I advise some small companies, the CEO or the 3 or 4 people mm-hmm. at the top, they're constantly talking to customers and clients to make sure that they are adapting their offering or their product. But it's a very fine line, because they are selling, they're understanding the customer, they're creating the program, the product, the offering, the pricing, they're discounting, so it's very complex.
A lot of things to do for these positions in the
company.
Small
companies, yeah, yes. They have it rough. The one thing that I would say is go and find some business angel and get some funding in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I think that, we are in the AI era. I think that leadership scheme needs to change a little bit. Yeah. Can you briefly tell us a little bit about that? How you see the leadership in the artificial intelligence era?
Yes, so last night I was at the Procore board meeting, and there's board members, there's the CFO, the CEO, they're all on the phone, and all they want to know is, what are you predicting? What's next quarter, what's next year, what's in 3 years, and what's in 10 years? Mm-hmm. And to predict what's in 10 years, I've only been there for 4 months. So the first people that I hired are data scientists, right? And we still don't know what we're saying because we're 4 months in, right? But we are predicting already 3 years out of the gate right now. And I can only do it because of AI and revenue modeling and total addressable market. So you have, we create all these equations with market size. We also throw into the potion like government regulations, things that can be done in France, very different than things that we can do in China. Or the world of construction is completely crazy. It's super new to me, right? How you build something in Japan, very different than how you build it in Dubai, as an example. So now I have to create these predictions per country. Before, at NetApp, it was so much easier because data is data anywhere. You stand up a data center, you kind of understand the government regulations, but in the world of construction, now we need to do AI per country. So it's super complex.
It's very complex. It looks like to be very complex.
It's very complicated, yes, sir.
So now we have dealt about some issues from the managerial point of view. Let's move on to more technical things.
Sure.
You are in the Silicon Valley. Could you please tell us what are the latest things that in the field of AI are happening over there? We have big universities, we have big companies over there. Probably is one of the centers of development on these areas. So
So first I would like to say that in the Silicon Valley there's about 1,200 Catalans there. And as we say, el més tonto fa un rellotge, o el més ruc fa un rellotge. I have friends working at Amazon. I have friends working at Waymo. Waymo is the Google car. That's the car that's driving itself around my neighborhood all the time. It's like, whoa, there's the car. I have friends working at Twitter, friends working at Microsoft, Facebook. They're everywhere, and they're all Catalan, by the way. And I think there's one here, I don't know. But yeah, it's everywhere. It's cars, it's the weather, it's climate, it's supermarkets. Amazon bought Whole Foods. Whole Foods used to be this high-end supermarket that was very nice and very easy to go into. The minute Amazon bought it, everything changed. They know where to place things. They know which route you're going to walk, what aisle you're going to find something. It's very strange, but you find it everywhere in the world of construction, in the world of medicine. One of my children is going to be one of the first people to get a degree from a drone degree. He spent 4 years studying drones. And the military wants him to go and fly drones. I'm like, no, do not get into the US military, right? But they're using AI, and because they're filming, harbors, they're filming whatever public sector needs them to do, and then they can use metrics to measure anything. It's everywhere. It really is everywhere.
One of the issues apparently is the technologies related on deep learning. They are really skyrocketing, right?
It's 30 trillion.
33 trillion.
Trillion,
yes.
Yeah, forget the internet, right? Forget anything. It's such an incredible industry, and you see more and more data scientists, computational scientists, analysts. Everybody wants analysts right now. You get offers to go and people are, they see I started working at Procore, I'm already getting phone calls to go work somewhere else, right? I was like, just leave me alone for a little bit. They really want executives that know how to do AI and that know how to place these data scientists everywhere, because you want to place them in the legal department, you want to place them, you were talking about ethics, right? So you want to place them. I have friends that work inside LinkedIn, so LinkedIn in the ethics department at LinkedIn, people that work on dating apps, to understand who's going to be the next, super, I can't say the word, but like bad person. They can predict everything and anything. And we at Procore, we have them everywhere. We have them in engineering, we have them in product, we have them in support, because we want to predict what's the next phone call that's going to happen so that we can create an article to avoid that question, right?
Mm-hmm. And how do you have a kind of metrics, a kind of indicators in your company, either Procore or previous companies, which help you to really see the impact of those technologies? Do you have something like that?
Oh, yeah. So
can you tell us something that we can really learn and have some takeaways about that?
Yeah, so NetApp has around 46,000 customers. Some of them are a fruit. Mm-hmm. Some of them are Facebook. So these are huge, large customers. I think out of the 43,000 customers, every single customer has their own AI platform from NetApp. So you can download a product that I worked on that was called Active IQ, that basically you have it on your iPhone or your Android or your phone, you download it, and you can see all your systems, what's about to go down, what's about to be renewed, what was fixed overnight. And 100% of NetApp customers have these artificial intelligence provided by NetApp, right? So that systems engineers can sleep at night, or so that you have to think of how are you going to make it easier for the end customer. So for example, for NetApp, it's the system engineer that was in charge of a data center or, the storage servers. For Procore, the AI is safety and quality. So you probably saw a whole building come down in Miami a couple months ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, true.
And so the AI for us, it's really going to be about safety, as an example.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Coming back to the deep learning, one of the effects is that as long as you have much more complex models, the costs of computation is also increasing. How do companies manage this situation?
Well, first of all, so you have to find the people. You have to place them inside of a team to train them. Then they need to figure out the modeling of something. So for example, right now I am hiring 3 to bring in a data center here in Europe. It's hard to find them. It's hard to onboard them. And then they delay the whole ecosystem of when am I going to be able to start this project. We really have a shortage of data scientists right now, where even human resources are having a super hard time to find them. Even if I want to do these things, I can't find them, right? Especially because Procore is not, Cisco or VMware or Google. And computational reviews are everything. We meet every single week, so there's probably, in my team, maybe there's 100 data analysts for different things. And we're looking at everything. We're looking at how this product is doing. We're looking at how beta innovation, incubation is going. We know what customers are about to leave us, so the word churn. We know, and every company knows how many customers they're about to lose in every single month. Mm-hmm. You know what employees are about to leave. So human resources, they use AI. As a vice president, I get ranked every single week. I get a score. People are happy or not.
From your company, from the people in your company, you mean?
They score Anna Schlegel. Mm-hmm. So am I being a good boss or a bad boss? I mean, it's everywhere. On Mondays, I'm like, oh, let me see.
That puts a lot of pressure,
it's
right?
Okay.
To keep up.
But it teaches you, right? It teaches you to be a good boss, and it teaches you. You can see the sentiment of the people. If they're burnt out, if they need vacation, if COVID is too much, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So that's a good side of artificial intelligence, application
Yeah,
of human.
it keeps me in check.
Exactly, because there could be, and we can talk about that later, more dystopian views about the artificial intelligence. But tell us then, what about in the States? I mean, the automation process, how is happening? How is the impact? We can see here in the chart comparing some figures about automation before AI, after AI.
Yeah. So they, I think there was, I gave you this, that the U.S. economy is at automation levels similar to that of U.S. manufacturing in the 90s. And it used to take 25 years to change something, now it takes 5 years. And I think it's just gonna go shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. I have another kid that's studying cardiology, and she's already using artificial intelligence based on hospitals around the world. They're analyzing data all day long. I don't think it's gonna take them 5 years.
It will be shorter than that.
Yeah, they're learning from all kinds of hospitals and listening and changing the machines, and it's unbelievable. So the pressure is very, very, very serious for these companies. It's like an obsession. You're super, super obsessed. And I was looking at a joke that said, the out of office, when Americans go on vacation or they have to be out of the office, it said, I am out of office having a 2-hour kidney surgery. You can text me, I will be at the hospital, right? And then there was the out of office for a Spaniard, and it said, I'm taking the month of August off, I'll see you in September. The obsession of the Silicon Valley is very, very real. The fact that I am here right now, my bosses are very nervous, right? Because I'm not producing and I'm not working for them right now.
Okay.
And so it's this automation. Every single week I run an automation lab, an innovation lab for the last 10 years. Because ideas like, I don't want to use a developer ever again, are very, very difficult, but it's possible. We have code that it's writing itself. We have compliance that it's correcting itself. You have LinkedIn being able to catch people that are just posting, nonsense. And they can go and find them, and they can ban them from the platform really fast, right? I mean, you see Twitter do this all the time. And thank God, right? Because they did it to a certain president, where they're like, get out of the platform, right?
So it's really, really interesting. I think that probably we still didn't reach this point here in Europe.
But I have to say something. I think people live better here.
Well,
there's a nicer balance here, and I think the fact that Microsoft chose to come and open an AI office here is a very good sign. I remember for NetApp, we were choosing an office to have as a hub, and we brought some Catalan, dignitaries to visit NetApp, and certain towns around Europe presented when they saw Barcelona. They're like, "Oh, we like Barcelona, right?" We are too obsessed, I think, in the Silicon Valley. The pressure is very, very heavy, and sometimes I think this is why executives change companies. To learn, and sometimes the pressure is too much also.
Okay, can you tell us now a little bit about some dystopian views about artificial intelligence? You have been talking about pressure, you have been talking about how control is within companies, but tell us a little bit, how is your view, how we will be in 5-10 years when all these things really are blooming?
Well, you already know about facial recognition. I think something that's very, very interesting, I don't know raise your hand if you're into cryptocurrency. Anybody on Bitcoin or, okay, so Silicon Valley, everybody's already on cryptocurrency. That is dystopian, right? Because they make you, to get into a platform to buy Bitcoin, it's like a nightmare. You have to prove who you are with 20 different ways because Bitcoin is completely unregulated. Banks hate it really badly. You know, so if I remove money from my bank to pass it onto a Bitcoin platform, I already get 20 letters in the mail, you know, saying you are using funds for, you know, an unsecure platform, as an example. So I don't think, you know, what seemed dystopian, what used to look dystopian to me, I started playing with it, and it's actually pretty safe. I think, you know, all the things that we used to watch, COVID is super dystopian, right? Like,
yes, like, in a way, yes.
Who knows where COVID started, right? I have a team in China that they say the Americans brought the COVID over. The Americans think the Chinese brought it over. I don't know what Europeans are saying where COVID started.
We are in the middle.
We're in the middle. But I think facial recognition, drones, we're super controlled. I think that is no longer dystopian. Everybody knows who you are based on so many metrics, right? We used to be on Facebook. I'm still on Facebook because of some of my friends, but social media has us all like super photographed, right? And I understand more and more why some friends of mine are in no social media whatsoever, are very successful CEOs, and you will never find them because it's so real. I mean, if your company gets into trouble or whatever, they're going to find you very fast, and they can ruin your reputation very quickly. Social media, all that is very dystopian, I think. I think seeing cars in my neighborhood, because I live between Apple and Google and Facebook, like you see cars all the time just roaming around with nobody inside, right? And I'm like, I hope they don't crash my car, right? Those things that look very dystopian 5 years ago are real. They're happening, right? That you have robots watching over, that's Apple, that's the infinite loop. That's like 5 minutes
away from home,
from my house, and that's Stanford.
Yes.
So I don't know what else will be dystopian because they recognize our faces. They know exactly who we are. They, whatever social media, governments, and everything. I think jobs are changing, right? Translators are being translated. Developers are being developed. Everything is changing, and I think that's the dystopia, but you have to learn, okay, so I used to be a translator, maybe now I can train a machine to translate, right? So you kind of have to keep up with this. And if you're in the Silicon Valley, that is very, very real. And when I say Silicon Valley, I'm going to say New York. I'll say North Carolina has incredible centers. Texas now, in Austin, Texas, super powerful. Seattle, obviously, because you have Microsoft and Amazon is there as well. I don't know, I can read to you like all the genetics and cell therapy, very, very different. Like people that are letting themselves be implanted and being tracked, you know, that to me is dystopian. I don't know that I want to be implanted with anything. 3D printing, orbital aerospace, obviously all we saw Elon Musk and the other guy, Richard Branson and Bezos, they're all now trying to find something somewhere, right, in the universe. That may be, you know, the next frontier. Also the infinite loop. So that in the United States, public transport is terrible, terrible, terrible. You're either flying or you're driving, so trains are very slow. So now they're trying to build these infinite loops so that you can go super fast underground, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Anna, I think we have a few minutes for questions from the audience. I don't know if there's anyone that would like to ask questions to Anna. If so, please get close to the microphone in the sides, please. And you can ask in Catalan, Spanish, whatever you like.
Thank you for coming here, and congratulations on all your success. Can you explain a little more, how the talent people can truly grasp, because having the way you said, AI can go so many verticals and sectors, so you can be for 2 years an executive on a company on, delivery or products, and then you go construction, and then you can go healthcare. But in the old times, for you to go for a construction company, they would ask for 20 years on the sector for you to become an executive on that area. How people that do talent and recognize that the expertise in this vertical can be translated so easily to other sectors?
Well, they wish I was better in construction. I don't know, my skills are very transversal because I'm an executive. Once you're at the top, you're mainly making decisions about hiring, firing, budgets, technology you're going to buy, who you're going to hire, all that kind of stuff. I think, obviously, Procore prefers people that have construction backgrounds, and NetApp prefers that people have data backgrounds. But if you've worked in the legal department at LinkedIn, you can go and work at the legal department at, Facebook or Apple or this and that. It's rare that people cross into different departments, but I have been in engineering, strategy. I think if you're at the top of a company, you have to have been everywhere, because to understand how to run a company, you need to know innovation, strategy, marketing, HR. I've done everything. But I had to go to college for a lot of these different things. It's not that, all of a sudden they're going to grab me because I don't know what I'm saying. You have to study, and you have to calculate those movements. So for me, especially, whenever I changed company, I went into a new department. So if the company came and said, when Amazon came and said, we want to hire you, I said, where? Product? I said, no, I've done it already. So when Procore came and they said, you're going to be head of international markets and this and global platforms, I'm like, okay, I'm there. So I try to go and learn something new. And my boss knows that I'm not great at something, but I'm really good at something else. That's okay.
Any other question from that side?
So you have to be brave also. But you have to study. You can't just go and jump and say, I'm a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I would be terrible at being a lawyer.
Hi. I would like to know what's your take on online education for AI, because we are hearing all the time that there is lack of talent. So do you think that we can have qualified professionals making online courses, or they have to go to university to 4 or 5 years, PhDs, and so on? Thank you.
I don't think you need a PhD for anything. There's a lot of online courses. I think you were talking about, there's a new degree here.
Yes, it's been explained, yes.
Yeah, so I've gone to colleges and I've also self-taught a lot. There's LinkedIn that gives a lot of courses, and you can get the digital certificate posted on your LinkedIn profile. Why are you asking? What are you trying to do?
No, I'm just asking if you think that this is a viable way to qualify professionals, or if you would hire people from university, or it's online courses good enough?
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay, so if you want to get into where I work or these places, they're going to test you. They're going to, if you're a developer, if you're an AI engineer, data scientist, the interviews are very complex, so they're going to test you, and they're going to make you write a script, and they're going to make you answer a solution, and the panels are very complicated, and you don't know who's asking you what. So we have a lot of meetings before the interview. What's your name?
Juan.
So we're going to say, okay, we're going to interview Juan. and we say, Joan, you're going to test his technical skills. I'm going to test to see if he would be a good Procore values person. Somebody else is going to see if you can code. Somebody else is going to see if you're a good team player. Somebody else is going to see whatever else. So we divide the job. You go into 7, 8, 9 hours of interviews, and then we meet again and we say, Juan yes, Juan no. But we spend hours talking about you. And there's a lot of people coming in, right? So you have to come. So I'm going to tell you something. People with PhDs that have not had the enterprise experience get lost also. I have some PhDs that are UX researchers, and they go like into all these philosophical speeches. I'm like, I don't have time for you. So I prefer a UX designer that's going to look at a wireframe and look at it faster. But yeah, you have to come with a lot of knowledge. So if you want to go into the field of AI, yeah, I would sign up to whatever courses you can find. If you cannot find them at some university here, get online. Go on YouTube. Just you have to start. The more you think about it, the more you dream about it, the more you learn about it. That's one way. The other way is to join a forum. Maybe there's a forum, there's talks like this, right? So I make my team, I'm like, I don't want to see you go talk to customers, go getting forums. There's many different ways of learning, but it's not just through university, I would say. I don't know if that's helpful. You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay. We are actually running out of time. I don't know if there's Mark. That will be a tough one.
No.
I love a splat.
So very good. That's very good. So I'm going to track you. No, because it's against the law. But this question got me thinking. We saw like some of the graphics of the redistribution of skills, right, and substitution. I was wondering, you're working in a very vertical sector now, but so maybe talking with governments or other industry leaders, how are they looking at this reskilling or substitution? So you were just mentioning there's a lot of information out there, but you don't always have the will to do all that. You are finding a lot of shortage. So how is this handled? Are you proposing reskilling and changing these translators into training? So how do you treat all this to feel all this? Because
I think everybody's trying really hard, and so people like me, we go to talk to universities. So I go to Stanford all the time to talk to the PhDs in translations. They don't even know that there's a machine that could do their job. Right? So we go and we tell them, hey, have you ever learned about neural machine learning or machine translation? They're like, what do you mean I have to translate this beautiful book in linguistics, right? So I think that's where companies have to go into universities, and university students have to do a lot of internships in the summer or whatever at companies so that we can cross-pollinate. China is really good at this. Right? So, and the Americans are very good at this too. Every summer we receive hundreds of students that come in and they start to understand, that's how they work. Because when I went the first time into Cisco, I had so much anxiety. I had no clue what they were talking about. So coming from La Facultad de Filologia and jumping to Cisco systems, I was like, what are they talking about, right? It's such a big shock. And so we need to find ways to not just get young people in these companies, but to actually mentor them and keep an eye on them, because many get in and they get out because it's too complicated, right? But the reskilling, I think it's happening at, com es diu FP?
Formació professional.
Formació professional, like maybe minor colleges now, because we talk a lot with minor colleges, they realize, right, that, it's no longer, you can't be a developer, you can actually use artificial intelligence to help you speed up your code. But these are people again, right? So who is the dean of the university? I am dealing with a couple universities here. I'm like, can you please send me a meeting invite so that I know where I have to go? And they're like, we don't do that. I'm like, well, you're going to have to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, or working with many circles here where people don't know how to place a file on a Google Drive, and it drives me nuts. I'm like, you don't know what a Google Drive is? They're like, nope. Okay, then you're going to have to do it, right? I don't know. It's when you live in this place, you can't take it. It's like a drug, you know. It's like you're living so much innovation, but then when you start traveling and you talk, especially in faculties, you see that there's a big disconnect. So we try to bring in a lot of faculties and a lot of students from anywhere around the world.
Okay, I think that we cannot take any more questions because we are really out of time.
Okay, let's take one more. Last one.
Actually, at the beginning you say that you're running a company and you spent like a year without a customer. So I'm wondering, how did you stay focused for a year without a customer? At that time, did you have like employees? And how did you cope with all of this?
So when I started my first company, I had a job. I had to feed myself, I had to pay my rent, right? But what I did every single evening when I came home, I researched, I prepared the business line, I created what I call, so there's a cake has foundation and has icing. I did a lot of the icing. I created my business card, I gave myself a beautiful title, name, phone, all of that. And then I was getting myself ready to understand who could be my customers. I understood who were the translators. I understood who were the engineers. I would take people out for lunch all the time until one day my first customer called. I was so ready, right? Because I prepared for a year. So if you're thinking of starting a company, do not leave your job. That's number one, right? And you have to work 2 jobs, right? Because you have to feed yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
So now, really, I think that we have to stop the questions.
Sorry.
I would like to thank you,
welcome.
Anna, because you have given us a very personal view, very well rooted from your experience, and I think that has been really useful for the audience. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And let's give a clap to Anna.